This week in games, Firewalk Studios shuts down, Wolverine director gets transferred over to Xbox, and Dragon Age the Veilguard is a massive success. This is the Two Penny Gamescast. What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 224. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
How you guys doing today? It's a beautiful, wet day. It's wet right now.
It's been raining all day, you know, and a lot last
Last couple days.
No, not so much last night.
That's from the, well, yeah, not.
Connor, how are you doing?
Let's see. I'm doing good.
Yeah?
I've been lacking on my video gaming.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
I
gonna
think
change now.
I think I'm finally in an area where I can like ramp it back up. Started Dragon Age the Veilguard last night. We're going to talk about Dragon Age a little bit later. But I started it last night, got through the character creator, played the little intro mission and so forth. Initial impressions are positive.
Yeah.
Positive. So I'm excited to get deeper in. I hear it only gets better as it keeps going. And so I'm very, very excited to get into the meat of the game. Only just got to what I assume is going to be like the home base.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm very, very, very interested to keep going. There's this, there's just so many attractive people in this game, Connor. Oh my God, I want to bang them all, including myself. Did some damn good work in the character creator. I'll tell you
You
what.
might be able to.
Oh?
I have no clue.
All right.
Maybe something weird will happen. They did it in Baldur's Gate 3, kind of.
Did they? You can bang yourself?
No, you can't bang yourself. Never. You can bang your own creation,
Yeah.
but not that.
Do they take that? No, like as few spoilers as we can. Do they not like? They keep the form if you ask them to, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I think I told them I was like, nah, you can just be you, dog. You don't have to pretend.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very interesting choice. I chose. You take the pill or you don't.
Yeah.
What did you choose?
No.
Chose no?
Nope.
Oh, I chose to take the pill.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And then my playthrough stopped soon after that.
We know what's going to happen.
Things are happening. Akash says in the chat. Well, of course, Akash. This is the Two Penny Gamescast, in which every week me and Connor come to you with the nerdy news you need to know concerning the video game industry. We each come to you with two topics, 2 pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents on them. This week, we will be covering things such as the Firewalk studio closing down, an interview with the PlayStation CEOs, and for those listening on YouTube and on podcast services, we will have our review of Alan Wake in the return of the Two Penny Game Club, which is our monthly video game book club. You can go ahead and find a breakout episode of that live over at youtube.com/@2pennygames. Not you, Akash, because Akash, you are watching us live over at twitch.tv/2pennygames, in which we record all of our podcasts live every Monday afternoon. You can, of course, find this show every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@2pennygames, and mainstream podcast services of your choice. Akash, thank you so much for jumping into the chat with us today. Is that Tony Hawk with you?
Who exactly?
Which one of us is Tony Hawk? This is a new thing. I've never heard that before. Venom with us, all 19 inches of him, you know? I'm so confused. Anyways, Connor, this is a week of games. Let me tell you what, some things have happened this week, and we should talk about them. So let's go ahead
that happens.
and jump into our first topic of the day, my first penny of the day. Sony shuts down Concord developer Firewalk Studios. Also, Connor, this week, you've done something new. You've written the stories out. You went out, you collected the information. You have what they call a journalism degree.
Yes,
so you know
indeed.
how to write news articles. You know, that was something you were trained in once upon a time. So you thought you'd go ahead and dust off the old writing skills. So we will, for our first 3 stories, be reading works of your own, not so much works from other people. What?
There was dust.
There was dust?
Oh, yeah. There was dust. They're wiping it off.
Anyways, Sony shuts down Concord developer Firewalk Studios. Sony closed Firewalk Studios following the removal of its first project, Concord, from online stores in early September. The game released 2 weeks prior to abysmal sales and a lackluster reception. Quote, Certain aspects of Concord were exceptional, but others did not land with enough players, and as a result, we took the game offline, wrote Sony Interactive Entertainment and PlayStation Studios CEO Herman Holst in an internal email to employees. Quote, we have spent considerable time these past few months exploring all our options. After much thought, we have determined that the best path forward is permanently sunset the game and close the studio. I want to thank all of Firewalk for their craftsmanship, creative spirit, and dedication. Holst would go on to say the company would learn from Concord to continue expanding its foray into live service titles. Concord is amongst the shortest-lived games in the AAA industry and has an episode still slated to appear in the upcoming Netflix anthology series Secret Level later this year. In the same email, Hearst also announced the closure of mobile game studios Neon Koi, formerly Savage Game Studios, after acquiring the developer in 2022. Awesome.
Yeah, right.
Now, do you go on to talk about how Firewalk got acquired in 2018? No. Firewalk got acquired in 2018.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Firing things over and over.
Developer in 2022. Founded in 2020 by industry veterans from studios such as Rockstar and Rovio, Neon Koi was in the process of working on an unannounced mobile action game. Quote, while mobile remains a priority growth area for studio business, we are in the very early stage of our mobile efforts, wrote Hearst. Quote, to achieve success in this area, we need to concentrate on titles that are in line with PlayStation Studios' pedigree and have the potential to reach more players globally. With this refocused approach, Neon Koi will close and its mobile action game will not be moving forward. Is this important?
It's about Neon Koi.
Neon Koi serves as the third studio shut down by Sony this year, following Firewalk Studios and London studio, rest in peace, in late February. Holst originally described Neon Koi as a perfect fit for PlayStation Studios during the acquisition's announcement. Assurances were made to find employment elsewhere within the company for certain affected workers.
Tale as old as this last year, and the year before that as well, where, studio closures, games not living up to expectations. It's safe to say Concord didn't, by all metrics.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's nothing you can do about that. Sometimes you caused that problem yourself. Not saying it's one way or the other with this one, but the fact that they pumped all of this money and time into one project, it fails, they give it no time to breathe, and then close the studio after the fact, shows that, they're really, along with the Neon Koi story, just shows that they're just trying to find things that stick to the wall, and if something doesn't work out, axe it.
They've gone down the wrong path.
Yeah.
From the surefire success of the PlayStation 4 generation into the 5, they've chosen to go down this live service. How much money can we make path? And it's cost them greatly. It cost 717. Excuse me. Says in the chat, $200 million for Concord. And yeah, those were the numbers going around before PlayStation even acquired them. That was the numbers going around. We kind of speculated on that a few weeks ago that was sort of a story that was going on. I'm still not 100% sure about those numbers. Something doesn't feel right with them, considering the size of Concord, considering what it had to offer on slate. I don't understand how that much money went in to that game. But this is disappointing, especially because, we reviewed Concord. We were critical of it, but we were not abysmally down on it. We thought it was a quality game. We gave it a good rating, which is a 7 out of 10 on our scale. We wanted to see more from it. We would have liked to have seen it evolve and turn into something else, but obviously the sales were just so abysmal for the game that they were like, there's just no reason to continue development in that. Now, I personally think that they did not give Concord a good enough chance. Excuse me. They didn't give Firewalk the time to find the game that they were trying to make in that. Now, was there a better version of the game that we got? Maybe. We'll never know now. And so yeah, I am very much disappointed by this news. I think it's a cowardly move on PlayStation's part to be so non-committal to their projects like this. And you got to start looking at the future and going, oof, Marathon's up next. That's Bungie. Bungie has a better pedigree, of course, because they've been around for so long. But are they really going to produce something that's of high quality? Marathon seeming to be an extraction shooter running off of sort of that trend that's going on. But you don't see huge major successes from the extraction shooter genre. Maybe Marathon can be the first. We don't know. There has been internal talk that Marathon has been going pretty well in terms of development. So we're just going to have to wait and see on that one. My hopes are not high on that. And then after Marathon, you look at Fair Games. I don't think Fair Games meets market. I think that project gets quietly canceled or very loudly canceled, maybe, in the not too distant future. And so this brings me to PlayStation in general. You know, we have our new leadership change off of it. We got rid of Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan, unexpectedly stepped down, and then we've replaced them with Herman Holst and with it's a very.
It's in the other story.
It's in the other story. It's of Nishino.
We gotta know.
Hideaki Nishino.
Yeah.
Hideaki Nishino. Who are the new
heads of PlayStation?
We'll get into it. Yeah, they're the new CEOs, but they see themselves as operating under very different things. We'll get into that here in a few moments. Yeah, I mean, Herman Holst is an interesting pick for CEO for Sony. Herman Holst, formerly of Guerrilla fame, helped get Horizon Zero Dawn off the ground and then kind of went into the more executive branch of Sony from there and is now the PlayStation CEO of PlayStation Studios, and will have more direct interaction with PlayStation Studios as a whole. That is interesting to me. We'll have to see. I mean, Herman Holst had a hand to play in the rise of the development of live service games under PlayStation, but a lot of that was Jim Ryan's push and ideas and reach for. So, what does this mean for PlayStation? Well, I imagine that we get one or two more decent live service games that are bound to fail because it's a very competitive market and video games take a long time to produce. And so any trends that you followed from years ago will not be the trends when that game eventually comes out. Marathon hopefully will be able to catch the end wave of the extraction shooter. And so now we are looking at a PlayStation Studios that I think needs to find themselves again. And I think the market has spoken very, very clearly this year. Helldivers 2 filled a hole. We didn't have a cooperative multiplayer shooter in the market, really, at least not one of like any substantive impact. And so Helldivers 2 kind of filled that niche hole, which is great for Helldivers and great for... I am blanking on all the names today. It's driving me crazy. Great for that studio. But Concord, we've seen a dozen... we've seen dozens of hero shooters. And so that one, that didn't really do anything new, flopped pretty hard. And
not good designs either. It just didn't look good.
It's just a very generic game, but fun to play.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can't tell me wrong because I know you didn't play it because I saw those numbers. They're not good, but I played it. Anyways. Yeah. Where was I going? Oh, the market's spoken clearly. Astrobot.
Yeah.
One of the most successful games of the year. One of the like second highest critically acclaimed game of the year or something like that right now. Or is it still the first? I forget.
It might be the first.
If you're not including Elden Ring, which I wouldn't. But yeah, the market has spoken very loud and very clear. PlayStation gamers want single-player, handcrafted experiences. Things that PlayStation built a brand off of in their entire existence. If you really want to go all the way back to PlayStation 1 times, it's always been about these really high-quality single-player experiences. Even in the PlayStation 3 generation, what were the ones that we remember the most? Is it the Killzones and is it the Resistances of the world? No, it's the Uncharted's and the Last of Us's and a little bit Infamous, and then PlayStation 4 dominated by single player games, and they should have kept that train rolling into the PlayStation 5, and they've kind of stalled on that. So now I think we're looking at another probably 3 years of very dry output from PlayStation, and then hopefully they can pick it back up by the end of the generation.
I mean, the trajectory of the industry as a whole is seeming to head to more and more of stories like this, but potentially on a wider scale. So I question, and with the standard practices in the games industry today, if Holst is even going to be able to do anything to curb the tide of just, the gaming landscape
or if he's even going to want to.
Yeah. I mean, these people aren't exactly innovators in terms of, on the business side of things.
Oh, Herman Hulst did really well
on the business side of things.
Okay.
Because being in the creative space is far, far different from being in the more, stoic professionalism of running a company. So, hopefully he's able to still take into consideration the games and keeping on staff instead of firing them.
Yeah.
But, it's not going to get better.
If it were me right now, outside of a Naughty Dog, a Santa Monica, Insomniac, and Guerrilla, all your other studios need to find new IPs and create something that's exciting. Obviously, did I say Insomniac?
You did.
Okay. I meant Sucker Punch. I want new IP from Insomniac.
Yeah.
But I meant Sucker Punch because obviously they just created a new IP with Ghost, and they're about to have a sequel to that come out next year, hopefully. Yeah. And Horizon, I think, is still finding its footing. It's found its footing. But Horizon, I think we still have more to explore in that universe.
Improve upon substantially.
Well, I don't know. I think we're just going to get another Horizon game, and that's hopefully going to be it. I don't know. I would like to see something new from Naughty Dog, but I understand Last of Us sells a lot of copies, and a Part 3 is heavily anticipated. So we're going to see on that one. Santa Monica Studios, I want another God of War, but I also know that Cory Barlog's game is coming at some point. We're going to see something from that at some point, and hopefully that's going to be a banger.
Maybe at the end of this year.
This year?
Yeah, maybe.
What? Oh, see it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got you. I thought you meant
get it.
I thought you meant get it. I was like, are you on crack?
You never know.
It's November. Anyway, so yeah, I'm very interested to see what that is. But of course, God of War, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Last of Us, Horizon, Ghost, like these are tried and trues that are going to keep coming. But you start looking around and going, all right, well, what's Ben's studio up to? What is Bluepoint up to? There were other studios under this umbrella that I would like to see more from. And so, yeah, I think it's time for PlayStation to get hungry again. They've been kind of satiated after the PlayStation 4 generation. I think the failure of the PSVR 2 and the failure of this live service push, hopefully will put them back on the back foot and tell them that, like, hey, you're still number one right now, but
don't get comfortable.
Don't get comfortable. Yeah. Nintendo's still right there.
Oh, they're not going anywhere, too.
Yeah. For fucking real.
You might be able to fight against Xbox and control the space against them as much as you can, but you're always going to have that other contender.
Yeah, and guess who's launching a new console next year with probably some heavy duty IPs coming out. So you better get to work on some stuff that we love.
Which we'll talk about that as well.
Indeed,
a little bit down the line.
But moving on, Connor, to topic number 2. Let's switch things up for once, man. Let's talk about something a little bit more positive that I'm actually very, very excited to talk about.
The rest of these stories are pretty positive.
We'll see about topic 3. See about that.
We'll see then.
See about that. Dragon Age: The Veilguard tops Steam's bestseller chart. BioWare's latest release, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, terrible name, broke company records as the top-selling single-player game with 70,414 concurrent players in its first 24 hours, beating out the previous King of the Hill Mass Effect Legendary Edition with its highest peak being 59,817 players. Real quick diatribe. I thought it was Jedi Survivor.
That was for BioWare games. EA games, it overcame Jedi Survivor.
Got it. These numbers are BioWare's. Jedi Survivor, but Dragon Age is also higher than. Oh, you do?
Yes, I do.
Oh, my apologies.
No, you're fine.
I should trust you. I should trust you. Briefly unseating the recently released Call of Duty Black Ops 6 from the top position, Veilguard is also among the highest peak player count of EA single-player games. Oh, it's literally in this next paragraph. Beating out the Star Wars Jedi games. Just Survivor. You can just say Survivor.
That's what it's referred to. I mean, you're counting it all. They're both single-player games. Yeah, and I tried to give it more.
But Survivor's the one with the numbers.
It is, yeah. But, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Great work. I'm so happy you did this. I really am happy you did this.
That's the great thing. Yeah. Because you're directly talking to the person who wrote it, you can nitpick it more. It's the amazing thing. This is part of what makes it so great.
Hey, dumb fuck, let me tell you where you messed up.
Exactly. Hey, it'll happen. It's going to happen.
I love you, buddy. Veilguard currently sits at a respectable 84 on Metacritic and mostly positive reviews. That's actually like an 82, 81 right now, right? Oh, on Metacritic. My apologies. I was thinking OpenCritic. And mostly positive reviews on Steam itself with a score of 74%. Despite the apparent success, BioWare creative director John Epler announced in an interview with Rolling Stone that there are no plans for future DLC, with attention now focused on the development of the next entry in the Mass Effect franchise. However, Epler would go on to muse about the potential of a Dragon Age collection in the same vein as Mass Effect with its Legendary Collection released back in 2021. Hey, yeah, you should do that. Because Dragon Age Origins can only be played on Steam right now.
And you'll do it, you did with Mass Effect 1 particularly. Make it better looking.
Yeah.
Make it nicer to play.
I think that would be a very, very, very good idea. I mean, especially with the success that we saw from the Legendary Edition.
Yep.
And how beloved that collection of games is. I think it's potentially the best collection of games ever made. I'd have to think about it. There's a lot of great I mean, you start digging into the Crash Bandicoot remakes and the Spyro the Dragon remakes and stuff like that.
Even though the collection itself isn't good, Metal Gear Solid, just based on the games that are in there.
Yeah, quality. Yeah. Well, the Blue Point collection was phenomenal. The most recent, the Master Collection, pretty lazy, but hopefully they're going to fix that with Volume 2 and put a little more effort into it. But yeah, I think that would be great to get a Dragon Age collection. I've never played Dragon Age Origins or 2, actually. I've played Inquisition, though. And I'm currently playing Veilgaurd, and I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far, so I'm excited to play more of that. Congratulations to BioWare. Finally a win. They spent all of last generation taking loss after loss after loss, with the exception of the Legendary Collection, which is not the biggest win in the world, but at that point, we'll take what we can get.
Yeah.
So congratulations to BioWare for finally finding some footing again. And I hope that this trend continues and that they continue to put out great games after this. No DLC for Dragon Age the Veilguard.
Might be disappointing to those that have waited so long, wanting to live in this world a lot more.
Yeah.
Because, this had surprisingly a lot of momentum after Inquisition. You and me weren't the hottest on it. We liked it. A very, a good deal.
Inquisition?
Yeah. But
I'd have to replay it. I almost want to say that I don't have an opinion on the game.
Okay, fair enough. But other people definitely did.
Yeah.
The fact that it got as high as it did on Steam's, top player list speaks for itself.
Despite what I say on Piggy Bank.
Yeah. Right. But it's I hope BioWare is able to not only keep up this momentum, but I hope it sells well on the other consoles. Because as good as this is only for Steam, which
I think it's probably a pretty good indicator of where where it's going.
Yeah. I would be surprised if it wasn't, but there is always that little chance it underperforms, as people kind of tend to do nowadays whenever their games come out.
The game was also, it feels like it was built for consoles with the way that the way that it controls and the way that it plays.
Yeah, but even if it does sell well, is that well by the metric that's set by the company itself? In this day and age, I got no damn clue. I have no clue. I thought Final Fantasy VII Rebirth hit it out of the park when it came out, but apparently it did not. In terms of sales, that is. Overall, I'm interested to play it. I want to see how it develops from the older Dragon Age. Not only just Inquisition but Origins as well.
It's different.
I imagine so. I hope it still is. It feels like Dragon Age in the sense you're in the Dragon Age world, but still remains to be seen. Hopefully the game still just stands on its own at the very least.
Yeah. I would be interested to hear your opinions on that and where it's at.
Because I've heard some kind of more middling reviews at the same time as the higher rated ones.
Yeah, it's not universal praise, but it's overall positive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think this is just a good step from Andromeda and Anthem. That's really what we're working off of here. Is from those two to this. But that's where we are.
It is,
right?
Yeah.
So you want to give them some bonus points for the Legendary Edition being so fantastic. Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. But that's more of what we already had before. Dragon Age the Veilguard is their first real full game after Anthem, which was a very, very low point in the company of BioWare, the lowest point of BioWare, And so hopefully this means that they can continue, as you said, keep that momentum up and continue to trend upwards with that. I think the optimist in me says they will. I hope the next Mass Effect game is a banger. I have the question now, Connor. Let's look at the industry as a whole with this, right? Dragon Age the Veilguard, no DLC. Spider-Man 2, no DLC. Is the age of DLC coming to a close?
It might be with certain... You have the Alan Wake 2 DLCs, and that seems to be a big creative endeavor. So I think outside of that, with how long it takes for AAA games to be made, studios might now want to say, okay, just get the game out and that's it. Don't waste time or money on DLC that may or may not sell all that well.
Yeah, I mean, because you're only getting a
open games.
percentage of the player base coming back for it.
Yeah.
So how much are you earning off of these things? I don't know.
Yeah. And, it's kind of harder for certain people to swallow when you offer, you increase the price of games to $70 and then you say, come pay $40 or $30 potentially, depending on the size of the DLC for all of this new extra content. It's harder to sell that more than ever before.
I mean, we say that, but we are in the wake of Shadow of the Erdtree.
We are.
Which was basically a whole nother game, of Elden Ring.
But will all other DLCs get up to that level? No, they won't. Can they be great? Worth it? Totally.
No DLC from the last two, or I guess not the last two, but the games surrounding Elden Ring, no DLC for those, being Sekiro and Armored Core 6, no DLCs for either of those. I mean, some updates and some extra content type stuff on smaller scales, sure, but a full pack, no.
That kind of goes back, I think, to the creative direction of it. Like, they didn't see a reason to do that for Sekiro or Armored Core especially, versus, Elden Ring, Dark Souls-like games have always done that. Sure. They always like their DLCs and playing around with it, which they clearly did. They had that vision. So,
I mean, you think Bloodborne sold more than Sekiro? Sekiro was multi-platform, I'll remind you.
That's true. Maybe not, but I feel like, I'd have to look that up.
I see more clips online of people playing Sekiro for the first time now than I see of people playing Bloodborne for the first time.
That's true, but I think that's because Sekiro has that, really visceral combat mechanic that, draws people to it. And it has some, it just looks cool. It looks cool to watch, as opposed to Bloodborne, which I feel like plays better than it is to watch.
So are we just looking at the big guys, the big publishers are starting to push their dev teams away from doing DLCs? Is that what's going on now?
It seems that way from all the other examples we have, which, if that's going to offset the issues of consistently taking forever to make new games, if that somehow takes the pressure off of trying to do more for that after you already sunk a ton of money into it, maybe that's a good thing.
Listen, I'm not crying about it because if we take it back, you mentioned Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I don't expect that we will get an expansion or an extra mission or storyline like we did for Remake with the Yuffie storyline. I don't expect that to happen for Rebirth. I could be wrong, but I don't expect it to be happening.
Yeah, I don't expect it either.
Intermission, that's what it's called.
Intermission, yeah. The only reason they would do it is if they were trying to mirror that of like, hey, here's what this new character is going to kind of play like. Get a little taste. But still,
Vincent, would be, or would it be better time spent to just experience that in part 3?
It would be better. Yeah. I think Yuffie's story was also when it was between the PS5 as well.
Yeah.
And so they kind of wanted to ride on that as well.
For sure.
There's not going to be as big of a jump with the next PlayStation from PlayStation 5. So maybe less of a desire to try and play around with new, capabilities of your machine.
Sure. Yeah. And so I don't know, man. I look at the landscape as a whole. I mean, we got God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, which was a great little free little expansion pass. That was a lot of fun to play. We got that last year. That was fantastic. But I struggle to think of moments or big DLC packs that we've gotten in the AAA space from the big publishers. Now, you could say Elden Ring, Bandai Namco, pretty big publisher, right? But we've talked about FromSoft kind of moves at the pace of their own drum. They don't really care what the publishers have to say. Yeah. And then from expanding past that, like Atlas, instead of developing DLCs, just puts out new games, and spin-off games and stuff like that. Xbox, that Starfield DLC, did not pay off well, really, at all, it seems like.
I mean, in that case, when you have a game that already technically isn't the most sound game, and then you try to make a DLC on top of it before all of those kinks are worked out, it makes sense that you're going to come with the problem of...
Well, they've done a lot since Starfield's launch, but that Shattered Space DLC was not received well, which is unfortunate. And then so you just got to continue the trend of this, Spider-Man. Spider-Man 1 had 3 DLC packs. None of them were super received well. I thought they were a lot of fun, but I was just enjoying getting more Spider-Man in my life. And so, I look at this Dragon Age the Veilguard announcement of no DLC for that. Man, I'm really enjoying Dragon Age the Veilguard. I would like to continue enjoying Dragon Age the Veilguard, but more often than not, these DLCs come out and they are played by a fraction of the player base. very often they're not as well received as the main game themselves. So what's the point in really doing it? I just think the age of a game getting substantial DLC packs that are worth playing, it feels like that's a long gone era. You know, I remember when the Mass Effect 3 DLCs were big events every time as I came back to that game to explore more of that world. You know, I remember Skyrim putting out different DLC packs and expansions in that, and how substantial they felt.
Fallout games as well.
Fallout as well, you know? And then as we progressed through that PlayStation 4, Xbox One generation, they just kind of seem to matter less and less and less. And now it seems like they don't matter at all, with exceptions of a few, you know? And some of the more independent guys, you know, you mentioned Alan Wake with Remedy. Those DLCs seem to be hitting. Lake House, I think, has been received pretty damn well.
Came out?
Yeah, didn't it?
Okay. I didn't see anything about
I
it.
feel like it did. I don't know. We got it. I don't know. I've seen a lot of things, you know? No, it has a score. It has like an open critic score or whatever, and it was positive. So yeah, I don't know. DLC seems to be a thing of like, all right, let the live service guys do that. You know, let's churn out video games.
Yeah.
Because they already take so fucking long to come out.
It'll be beneficial. I won't be dour on it, because I don't have a lot of time comparative to I used to play DLCs and go back.
Naughty Dog is another example.
Yeah, they are.
You know, they used to have DLCs and multiplayer modes and updates to those multiplayer modes.
No more.
Last of Us Part 2, nothing happened.
You remember when Uncharted 4 had a multiplayer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Still
Decent.
does. Good.
Yeah, you can still play it. You know, it was decent.
Yeah. They didn't do any work for it compared to the second one or the third one.
Right, yeah. Well, they did have add the survival mode later on.
Oh, yeah.
The co-op survival mode type thing, which was, again, decent. You know, not the best thing in the world. I think all of those modes were better in previous games.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say. But then, you know, Last of Us 2 didn't get anything. Both Horizon DLCs seem to have just kind of come and gone.
Mm-hmm.
Ghost of Tsushima, did we play that DLC pack? I don't know. I understand you played it.
Legends.
Did other...
Oh,
no.
I see.
The story one.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Most people would not.
God, Legends was good. I hope they do that again.
That would be really sick, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so sick. Anyways, let's move on to topic number 3. Connor, your first penny of the day. Go ahead and take it away, my friend.
Indeed, I will. Perfect Dark, now headed by creative director of announced Wolverine game.
Hey!
A Sony Interactive Entertainment, SIE, representative confirmed Wolverine's creative director, Brian Horton, has been moved to serve as the lead for Xbox's new entry in the Perfect Dark franchise, according to GameFile. Replacing Horton as creative director on Wolverine is Marcus Smith, who previously worked as creative director on Ratchet & Clank, Rift Apart, and Spider-Man Miles Morales. Additionally, Wolverine received a new game director in the form of Mike Daly, replacing the previous director, Cameron Christian, who remains at Insomniac in another position. Daly also worked on Rift Apart in the capacity of game director, along with Marcus Smith. No reason was given for the role change, only that Horton is, quote, bringing his wealth of experience to the upcoming reboot of the classic Secret Agent series, end quote, a nameless Xbox representative told GameFile. It was reported earlier this year that Perfect Dark was in a, quote, very rough state, according to author and podcaster Jeff Grubb, with apparent insider knowledge on the state of development. So that tracks out with them getting someone new on the team, a little bit new, fresh perspective, someone who's already, you know, I'm assuming Wolverine's progressing fairly well if they feel entrusted, they trust him enough to go on to this other project. We haven't really seen much of Wolverine. We've only seen a little bit more of Perfect Dark because they actually had a, you know, gameplay showcase during Gamescom.
The only substantial things of Wolverine we've seen were the big leaks that happened earlier this year.
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
Which, who knows how far away those, like if those were actually real or they probably were. But,
well, they were. I imagine they were real. It's just, but like, what place in development are they? What does the game look like now? You know, these things change drastically as we keep going.
Exactly.
On. And then Perfect Dark, I thought I understand, like, there was a lot of like turmoil in development leading there, but I thought it had an excellent showcase when it showed up at the Xbox showcase earlier this year.
Yeah, it was.
I thought that showing was fantastic.
Yeah, but other people also didn't seem that, you know, high on it compared to you and me, and the fact
really.
From like things I saw, who knows how like accurate that actually is.
Oh, I thought that game looked great.
No,
now,
great.
A game can have a great showing and then the game be, you know, piss poor.
And that's the other angle of it, because those things are heavily, you know, they choose that point in the game because it's good to show off.
Yeah.
So the rest of the game can
and
be really
they spend 4 months building that part out so that it can be shown off.
Did they even play it live? or is it recorded?
I believe it was a recorded demo.
Yeah, so-
but it looked great.
It did? No,
Looked great. Gave a lot of good Splinter Cell vibes. Splinter Cell Mirror's Edge vibes.
It did, yeah.
I was really interested in that. What is his role at Perfect Dark? What is Brian Horton's role now?
It is like he's the lead. He's the it doesn't really specify the position.
Okay.
They don't give the exact title. I'm assuming it's game director
Okay.
because they had one leave prior, but it was a while ago when that one left. So I felt like they would have had someone replace it.
So
That position.
I think this brings up a series of obvious questions.
Yeah.
One, what does this mean for Wolverine? We've now had 2 gameplay director changes on that title. Now, I'm one who says you should just always place faith in Insomniac because their hit record is really fucking good. I think they've had 1 loss in the last 20 years, being Fuse. Other than that, Resistance games are liked. Ratchet and Clank has pretty much always been good at the very minimal. And of course, Spider-Man, both games, awesome, right? So in Insomniac, we trust.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I would assume Marvel's Wolverine is going to be a great game. I don't think this is going to mean anything for the course of development because, of course, video games are made by a lot more than just one person. And so, just a creative director, some things may come out differently than what would have happened earlier. But I would also assume Wolverine's been in the kitchen for so long that one's probably almost ready to be, showcased.
It's really the Jeff Grubb comment that makes me think, well, this was more for the sake of Perfect Dark rather than Wolverine.
I fully believe this is for the sake of Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
I just don't think Perfect Dark has had a troubled development, undeniably. With the initiative has had a tough time getting this one out the door. And then they brought Eidos, Crystal Dynamics,
Who worked on Avengers? I think it was them.
Crystal, right?
Crystal should have been, yeah.
It was either Crystal or Eidos, one of those two. I always get them confused.
Pretty sure it's Crystal.
They brought them in to help with the development of Perfect Dark. And it went very radio silent after that. Very radio silent until they showed up again at this last showcase, which I thought that demo was quite good. So now we are stuck in this position of okay, well, what is the status of this game? We don't have a hard release date yet. I believe they said for next year.
I think they did as well, but that's
who knows,
it's
right?
Subject to change if they give us a specific date. Let alone
these
a year.
things slip all the time. You know what I'm saying? So now we look at Perfect Dark and this new head. Is this guy just coming in to just finalize things and get this thing out the door? Maybe, possibly. Could possibly lead him to be in a nice creative position for the initiative's next game after this, whether it's a Perfect Dark 2 or something new. So yeah, I'm interested. I don't think this is a sign to worry on either project, at least not worry any more than we already have.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think Wolverine is probably in a really good state, if I were to guess. I think Perfect Dark is just trying to figure out some hopefully last couple of things to kind of get it to work the way they want it to work. And then I'm hoping for the best on that one as well.
Let's see.
Because, of course, even though I personally undeniably have a PlayStation bias, I want Xbox games to be good.
Yeah.
I want them to be good.
We want all games to be good. I mean,
oh, yeah. There's never a game I want to be bad.
We're not nihilists.
Well, you get a little crazy sometimes.
Crazy, but not nihilist.
Okay. Connor, moving on to our final topic of the day. This is going to be a little bit of a different one, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to require a little bit of reading, not from our words, but from the words of the good people over at Variety and Jennifer Moss. Connor,
yes,
I'm going to prep you and just scroll in, but go ahead and give us just sort of the scenario here.
So basically, there was an interview between the two heads of PlayStation right now, Hideaki Nishino and Herman Holst, and it was an interview kind of on their management style, how they're exactly splitting the work. They go into talking about I do it 80% and I do it 20%. Shit that doesn't matter to us, frankly. What matters is that the company functions properly and games get out. So, ignoring all of that stuff, let's just focus on the interesting things they have to say about the PlayStation 5 Pro, which is just on the horizon, and we still don't really know the most amount of details from it. So here I'll read directly from the interview that was done. The question begins with the PS5 Pro coming out very soon after we publish this story, I wanted to ask you about the timing of that versus what will be the actual next-gen device. Are you waiting for Nintendo to make the first move with a Switch 2 announcement before you will get there? And what is the plan for rolling out Pro and making it clear who the product is for versus who the actual next-generation device will be for? Nishino answers, so we have done Pro in the last generation. We learned a lot from there. When we were selling PS4 Pro, in addition to the PS4, 20% of customers actually got the PS4 Pro. It was high-end. It was premium tier. So there are potential users acquiring those kinds of units. Interestingly enough, it was not just about highly engaged users. Actually, new users comes to PlayStation to get PS4 Pro as well. So we started working on PS5 Pro even before PS5 launches. It was another 5-year project for us. So there was a conversation around whether we wanted to do another Pro or not. But the main thing was, there are technologies we can grow up in 3 years' time or 5 years' time. So the innovation and technology advancement is more quicker in a modern world. Phones are updating every year. PCs are updating every year. I don't think we'd go every year updates, but there are things we can package together to bring the greatest things into console gaming, into game console segment range. So that's the vision. I think it was great to see people talking about it. Like year 3, usually the conversation around the gaming console comes down, so people are shifting the conversation more to the next gen or something like that. But we're kind of happy to see, like most engaged gaming users, are interested in the PS5 Pro, and then I'm pretty sure new users will grab the PS5 Pro as well. If it's the PlayStation you want to get, that's the thing. So that's where we designed the generation at this moment. We design everything with having one ahead in our mind. It's not like we make a next step and we don't know about the 2 steps ahead. That's not our way of working, because we need to make sure that the 10-year-old generation cycle continues to be going as well. I guess we can kind of stop there, review that.
Yeah. Let's stop and pause right there. So, it's worth noting that they also said that like Herman Hulst kind of heads the PlayStation Studios side of things. Nishino heads the more business side and hardware side. So things like a PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be in his wheelhouse. Thank you. And so what he says here, interesting to me. First off, he sees the PlayStation 5 Pro as sort of a 10-year generation cycle. That's a little longer than we're used to with these types of things. And so I'm almost curious to see if we are at the halfway point of this generation or if we're more a third of the way through the generation.
I mean, a lot of it has to do with the fact that what's on the horizon for the next PlayStation console.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
In a way that's going to justify a whole purchase of another console. So it makes sense that they'd want to be putting a lot more of their energy on the PS5 Pro, because that's something that, isn't going to be as big of a buy-in as a whole new console. You can replace it if your old PlayStation's kind of going by the wayside, which they're extending the amount of time they're going to stay with the console. That could prove very beneficial down the line. And he clearly thinks that he's clearly thinking ahead. He's not just trying to think in the now, how can we maximize profits until the next thing? And extending your life cycle sounds like a good way to do it. We're entering into a weird place in the games industry. Closures are happening all the time. Layoffs are happening all of the time. Games are taking longer to make than ever before. And so maybe it's a good thing just to stick with one console that we can kind of base our games around rather than what the next thing is on the horizon, especially when, once again, it's not going to be that much of a substantial shift towards, it's not going to be making any great leaps like we've seen in the past with something like the PS3 to the PS4, or the PS2 to the PS3, or Xbox 360 to the Xbox One, or whatever.
Yeah, I think those great leaps are not ever going to be felt really ever again. I think that time is it's just more iterative than things in the past. And when I say that is, I saw one thing that I saw a sort of a graphical breakdown of what all of these different things mean, and it was like, oh, this is like 8-bit into 12 into 16 into 24, 32, et cetera, and it just kept building and building, and early on, every time they doubled the number, it meant so much. There was such a great jump, but eventually, you start getting into the hundreds, into the thousands of polygons per character, and it just becomes imperceivable to the human eye. The increase in detail in that, even though it's there, it's just like, all right, but like for what purpose? So I think we've kind of hit a point in time where, much like with phones, much like with PCs, it's like, all right, we're going to keep getting incrementally better, but you're just not going to see a giant leap anymore. So at what point do we just kind of phase out the idea of generations and just kind of start becoming, oh, you get an updated version of this every couple of years or so.
When you need it.
When you need it,
Yeah.
exactly, you know?
And, working hand in hand with the Switch 2,
Yeah.
Nintendo has a lot longer of a life cycle when they release their console. And the fact that they're going back to a model they just did versus before, they always try to do some new innovation, which isn't the best idea. I think that's kind of one of the issues people had with the Wii U, is it didn't really add anything substantial to things. It was kind of gimmicky in a way.
Yeah.
And so they kind of want to stick with their solid core console they got going on with the Switch by just doing a Switch 2.0. And so with Xbox not really, doing that well in the console gaming market in comparison to Sony, there's not much of a need for competition. Try and get out that next thing to get ahead of the competition when everyone else is slowing down alongside you. You're already in a comfortable position with your current console. Just tweak it a little bit. Maybe they'll even do something crazy like the next step beyond a PS5 Pro, not yet to the PS6, depending on what the advancements in technology are.
Well, the question is, Connor, is it called the PlayStation 6?
Right? Who knows?
I mean, I guess you could just keep calling it iPhone 18 or whatever the fuck they're on right now. They just keep adding a number to it, and eventually, someone jumps from the 13 to the 16 to the 17 to the 20th, whatever. And so, yeah, I could see console gaming kind of turning into that as well, just because there's just not as much need to sort of buy into an upgrade every single time. I think PS4 to PS5 was substantial enough, especially if you had a base model PS4 into a base model PS5. That was a substantial enough jump in technology to justify that. Ideally, a PS5 into whatever the next generation jump is going to be as well. But there's a good argument to be made that if you jump in on a PS5 Pro at any point in the next 3 to 5 years, you may not 100% need to get the next thing right away. Or if there might even be another step in between before we jump up to the next thing or whatever. Things are getting a little more complicated, but I think it also allows more choice for buyers, for consumers. Moving on to the next part of this interview here, Connor.
Yes. Next question. How do you balance that on the development side, knowing when certain devices are going to hit and what titles you are ready to announce or not? I'm very excited about Ghosts of Yotai next year, but I feel like there isn't another really big one you have announced yet that would show a need to be played on PS5 Pro.
Fucking Wolverine.
Well, we haven't yet to see. Do you have big title announcements coming soon tied to Pro or for the next gen? Holst answers, we spend a lot of time doing portfolio planning, and platform is a big part of that. I thought you had some
No, I'm just burping. Keep going.
So when we were doing our planning from early stages of PlayStation 5, it was really important to get really high quality titles on PS5 right out the gate, and that served us well and bought us the position of PS5 that's really, really good. I think the other thing to say here is that the teams love tinkering with the hardware. They love the privilege of being involved in the hardware. And hardware is not just the boxes, it's also the peripherals. And teams like Team Asobi on Astrobot, that team is a prime example of early on helping design, in addition to some schemes, the hardware features of the controller, creating demos for it, and actually in some cases, these demos evolve into an entire product that becomes a large product in its own way. So we are involved in that. We enjoy that very much. Same with PS5 Pro. Both of the demos that you've seen are PlayStation Studios. Teams take great pride in doing that. Obviously, we're involved in any hardware planning efforts. It's very much that symbiosis of the hardware side. What can you guys do with it? And here's the feedback, and can you make demonstrations for it? And all of that to inspire third party, which is a huge source of revenue, obviously, for the business, to inspire what you can do and what's the quality bar for these short showcases. That always has been part of what PlayStation Studios do, and it will always be. And that's in addition to finding the incremental additional revenue streams or opportunities to leverage in film and television and merchandise and location-based entertainment and whatever else. Nishino goes on to say, I just wanted to say that the Pro is not a next gen. It is still in the PS5 generation. PS5 Pro will do everything that PS5 does, so it's a consumer choice. If they see a need for more visuality, they will get it. So we wanted to provide an option for the consumer within the generation. That's what we're doing.
Hey, we're making technology. We got to plan games to launch with that technology, and also we want to make money.
They clearly don't really have a hard line idea of what's going to be like down the line for their consoles, and so they're just keeping an eye
I
out.
disagree. I think they very much know what's down the line. They just don't.
You with PS6?
They're just not sharing that today.
Because I figured the problem would be like trying to find a reason to like get the people who develop this hardware to say, okay, we're at a point in time where we can call this the PS6. I don't know if the technology is necessarily there yet. Because once again, there needs to be like a reason to buy a PS6 rather than just being slightly better than the PS5 or even the PS5 Pro. You need to have a new console.
And this is my argument. The reason to buy a new thing is going to get smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And it's continuing to get smaller and smaller. The reason to buy a PlayStation 6 is you went 8 years without getting a hardware upgrade. That's the reason why. That's kind of how PCs work as well, right? Is you go 5 to 10 years not upgrading, and then you decide you need an upgrade, so you start buying new parts, right? Consoles are now working on the same thing. Is things are getting hard. It's harder to make these games run, and you want the latest and greatest games. For that, you're going to need certain hardware specs, and so now consoles are living in that space as well.
So Tavin, how would you feel if PlayStation becomes the next PC? You got to constantly upgrade it yourself.
Right. Do I have to dig into an operating system and toy around with code to get things to work, or do I just download the game and play it?
With PC, you don't have to usually.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah,
Might I turn you to one Might and Magic, whatever the fuck?
I knew you were going to do that.
And it's a game that's fucking 15 years old, 20 years old, and we couldn't get it to work on the latest and greatest hardware.
First of all.
Hey, but guess what, Connor? I got not one, but 2 platinum trophies for Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus because they ported it to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5.
Ooh.
I downloaded it, and it just fucking worked.
Platinums. I'm so excited for that. I love playing Platinums. Here's the thing, Tavin. I didn't say all the time, and I played my version of Might and Magic here at Dark Messiah very easily with no issues. So it's a tit-for-tat kind of thing. I want that to become PlayStation so you can suffer. So you can live in like a Twilight Zone scenario.
As long as the console is always just download the game and play it, yeah, sure, I'll spend $700 every 8 years.
There we go.
Whoop-de-fucking do.
Tell that to Nishino.
Still going to be cheaper than a PC. Still going to work at time of launch. Still going to be comparable to most high-end PCs.
Can you play naughty videos easily?
I have a cell phone, Connor.
Do you watch movies on cell phones too?
Sometimes. Bored. Connor, I don't fucking watch movies. I don't watch TV.
Yes, don't watch them on your phone.
You know what I do? I play games because I'm a gamer.
Well,
that's the fucking point of all of these things is to be a gamer. If we're really being honest, PC gamers are an inferior version of gamers because they keep getting distracted by all this other bullshit. Fucking focus on the medium of your choice. Plant a flag, draw a line in the sand, and say, no, fuck TV, fuck movies, fuck all these other types of mediums. I'm a goddamn gamer.
Tavin,
I play video games.
And you show your ass right there. Gamers are nerds. This is all the nerd sphere. It all works together. You think that Indiana Jones is getting a game because someone thought of Indiana Jones in the video game room? No. They looked toward the movie and said, that's what we're going to do. Did they look towards a video game to get Spider-Man?
And
no, they went and got the comics.
And how great is Indiana Jones going to play out for Xbox this year, Connor?
I don't know. How well did Spider-Man do being a comic?
Pretty fucking well.
There you go. So these things matter. And also, Star Wars games.
Yeah.
Return of the Sith, fighting in
the
arena.
Connor, surprise, surprise. Cross-media IPs tend to do pretty well.
And you're insulting it right now. You're insulting it. You're saying it's binary. And just for what? A win against the PC people? Come on. Don't corrupt your own values as a nerd.
I mean,
you take film classes. Come on.
Well, yeah.
No, non-nerds don't do that, Tavin. Only a nerd does. Or geek, if you want. There's no difference.
I'm getting more focused, though, Connor. I'm getting more focused. Yeah, geeks are losers, though.
Says you, nerd.
Nerds just like nerdy things.
That's true.
I've always determined that a geek is like
Actually, the PC specs that you have don't match up to the requirements of the game, so it's really your fault. Now you got to pay $1,400 to play this fucking game from 20 years ago.
The trade-off is geeks usually end up making more money.
Yeah, but do they get bitches though?
No.
I get bitches.
But money can help with that.
Do we want to talk about
No.
this TV? Hey, they're going to keep working on TV.
They want money.
They want money. They're going to
That's
keep
a
working
money
on
pit.
TV. We got so distracted from the play. We've been recording for a very long time. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, you can watch us record all of our podcasts live over at twitch.tv/TwoPennyGames. We are going to go into something that we already recorded with young Philip. That's right, the return of the Two Penny Game Club with Alan Wake. We were trying to get it out before Halloween. We failed dramatically. And guess what? That's an hour-long conversation. Jesus
It went on
fucking
a while.
Christ. It went on a long, long while. Connor had really bad takes, but you're about to see all of that. Stay tuned for that right now.
You'll see how good they are.
Go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/@2pennygames, where you can get this show every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Central Time alongside mainstream podcast platforms of your choice. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below all of your thoughts on today's stories, or maybe some topics that you would like us to talk about later on in the future, maybe even next episode. We'd love to get an audience to Penny as well. Can you hear my voice giving out as we're talking about this? I had a little bit of an itchy throat, and it's starting to really, really get to me right now. Anyways, until next time, have a great time. And Connor, say goodbye to
End the stream. I'm going to sneeze.
What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Game Club, your monthly video game book club in which me and the two other gentlemen on this panel come to you at the beginning of each month with a review of a game of yore, and we review and rank it amongst the other games we've played in the series. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friends and co-hosts. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
I have spilt my beer twice on myself, and it never appeared on camera.
See how fucking annoying it is when he can see what camera is on him, and he just never, ever, ever, ever fucking plays to the right camera.
And you know, I
saw
think
him
it's a
looking
curse.
directly into that one.
Yeah. I think it's a curse.
Looking directly into that
Into
one.
this
not
one,
that
yes,
yeah.
but that one's not. Yeah, it's that
Yeah,
one that's
it's
on.
that one that's on.
It's
We
so
can literally
clearly
see
on.
the viewfinder.
Yeah, literally. Every week.
Well-
Every week with this fucking guy.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
My next setup for the joke is I'm like the main character in an airplane where I have a drinking problem. Can't get it in my mouth.
Talking about God, what's his name?
I couldn't tell you.
Oh my God, I knew his name. Leslie Nielsen.
No.
Old guy?
It's the main character. No, he's actually a supporting character. It's the guy who's trying to get over his fear of flying. It's
Okay.
like, and then I developed my drinking problem. Throws it off to the side.
And that other voice you're hearing, say hello to the people, Phil Shoemaker.
I'm Phil. I
Ladies
played
and
this
gentlemen,
game.
this is a series in which we, of course, play a game in the background. At the beginning of every month, we come back to you with our review of that game. Play along with us and let us know how you felt about it and where you would rank it in the list down in the comments below. This month was Alan Wake. We were playing it in the hopes of meeting a deadline for Halloween. We didn't meet that. we were too busy during the month. We just didn't get it done.
I got married,
Yeah, Phil got married. And so we came back the normal week that it would have been. So I guess we could have just spun the wheel as it laid. But it is what it is. So we played Alan Wake, the first one. I played the remastered version. These two gentlemen, I believe, both played the original version on Steam.
Pretty sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
I played on PlayStation 5. And let me tell you, there's a difference. Is it a positive one? No, but it is what it is. Connor, this is not your first time playing the game. You played it once, I believe, last year in the lead up to Alan Wake 2.
I did, in fact, do that.
Yeah, and you've played both games.
Yep.
You enjoy both games?
I do.
Fantastic. Before we get into it, I have only played Alan Wake 2, and I've played Control, but Control doesn't, I don't think, matter as much. But I've only played Alan Wake 2, so my perspective is very, very interesting going into this. And then Phil, this is your first time playing an Alan Wake game ever.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Did we all roll credits on this game?
I did.
Why are you looking at me?
Well, you have to do it for the sake of the sanctity of the review. You must do it.
No, I didn't finish it.
No. Where are you?
Oh, like mid chapter 5.
Mid-chapter 5. So he's probably got 2-ish hours left.
Almost an hour and a half, really.
Yeah.
The last mission is really
like,
quick, easy.
I mean, chapter
short.
6 still has some length to it. It's not like short.
I'd say it's short. For me, it was.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm in the dam. That damn.
But you did watch what happens narratively.
Yeah, I know how it ends.
And you're still gonna go back and finish it and roll credits.
Oh, absolutely, I am.
Go back and finish it, you motherfucker. It's an easy game to beat. Anyway, so, ladies and gentlemen, some quick facts for you on Alan Wake. Alan Wake initially released May 14th, 2010. Fun fact, I thought this was like an indie game or like an Xbox arcade game that came out. No, it's a real game.
yeah.
Or
Yeah.
like, not a real game, but like a major game.
I think it was in
so
the
forth.
top, like, the Game of the Year awards, like in the top.
It
like,
may have
game
been.
contender.
Yeah, I remember Alan Wake being a moment in games. I remember there being like cardboard cutouts in movie theaters for Alan Wake. I don't know
Oh,
why.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I vividly remember seeing an Alan Wake cutout stand in a movie theater, and I was like, "That's weird. Why is that there?" It sold about 3.2 million copies, which is pretty impressive considering, and has a Metacritic of 83. And I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Alan Wake is a game that I would call great art, but a poor video game. It's not very good. And the reason I say this is, you know what? Actually, let me start with the positive in what I think is interesting about Alan Wake. Thematic genre is not something that gets played around with and experimented a lot in games. And what I mean by that is very often video games pander to movies, and movies are almost always realistic or are based in realism. And games kind of follow that same pattern. And I wish they didn't. I wish games played more like live theater, where you were getting things like anti-realism, you're getting things like naturalism, you're getting things like absurdism, all of the isms, right? And I wish games would follow that more, because Alan Wake plays with anti-realism a lot. And it was the most interesting thing about it to me, about Alan Wake 2, was that, and that continues here in Alan Wake 1. The most interesting thing about it is how it plays with thematic genre being anti-realism. Phil, Kingdom Hearts does the same thing, but with absurdism. You know, Kingdom Hearts is an absurdist piece until the Disney worlds get introduced. And I think that makes it so fascinating. There's another example I had recently, but I can't recall it at this moment. Something to do closer to naturalism.
For those that might not know, though, kind of slightly define these things.
Okay, yeah, so like realism is based in the idea not that like there's like unrealistic things happening like magic and dragons. Magic and dragons can still take place in realism. Realism is where characters act and react in what you would consider real ways. So like they seem like fully fleshed out real people who are reacting in that way. Anti-realism and a little bit naturalism kind of play into it's more impressionist. It's more, we're not explaining things. Characters may not act normally in certain cases. Characters may be living embodiments of metaphors in certain cases. And then absurdism is intentionally nothing makes sense. And it's 100% supposed to be what you personally take from it. The most popular absurdist piece probably of all time is Waiting for Godot. And there is a it's not Broadway. I think it's a London theater recording of Waiting for Godot on YouTube. I 100% recommend a watch of that. It doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to make sense. But it's one of just the most fascinating pieces of art that you could ever watch, hands down.
This it has nothing to do with the game, but going off of like what you're talking about with this, what was the term? I'm sorry.
Absurdism?
Absurdism? Is that what it is?
For which part?
No, what you called Waiting for Godot? Is it?
Oh, it's absurdism.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you ever heard of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've not
Dude,
seen it.
highly recommend watching that.
Okay.
It's based off of Hamlet's friends from Hamlet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's fucking what's the actors' names? They're escaping me. But Commissioner Gordon from Dark Knight.
Oh, okay,
Gary Oldman.
yeah.
Gary Oldman,
Gary Oldman.
and Abomination from Incredible Hulk.
Oh God, I couldn't.
Yeah,
tell you.
but you know his face, though,
lie
right?
to me, guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, but they don't say who's who. So like at some point it plays with the idea that they're in a play, but they don't know that they're in a play, and then they start to realize that they are in a play and that they don't know why they're doing the things that they're doing, and it doesn't make sense why they're doing the things they're doing. And at some point, they are like, "Who am I? Who are you?" And then, like,
Interesting.
There's a really good sequence where they play a they call it questions, and it's like they're playing tennis.
Okay.
And so the game is to ask a question, but not give us a statement. You have to keep asking questions without repeating, and it has to like kind of not necessarily make sense. But if one of them says a statement, they say 15 love or
Interesting.
and it's a great sequence where they play questions.
Bringing it back to Alan Wake. The best part about this game is its narrative and how it plays with thematic genre. And everything it's doing just kind of as a piece of art. I think it tells a very clear story here, and then hides it under the guise of anti-realism and impressionism in that. And we can get kind of into that a little later, but the story it tells is super dark and very, very, very bleak and pessimistic. But much like how the gameplay works, there's rays of hope spread throughout it. You know,
I hate you.
I mean, it's there, right?
Yeah.
So it's a game that will stick in my mind, much like how the second one did. But I think the second one's much better. It's a game that will stick in my mind, and I will think about it for so long. It's really left a really big impression on me. It's just that the game around these elements is bad. It starts off very, very interesting. The idea of this is a third-person shooter game with heavy survival horror influences on it, but I hesitate to kind of call it survival horror. Like
it's not.
Yeah, it's really like, which one's me? Fucking,
We're already on
there
you,
we go.
weren't you?
There we go. I wanted this one where
The
you
three
guys
of
are
us.
on there as
Gotcha.
well. It's not like, it doesn't like lean in super hard into survival horror, but it's got that kind of tone of survival horror in it. And I found the gameplay mechanics of it, of using the flashlight to sort of de-shield enemies first and then doing damage with a handgun or with just a firearm, really, really fascinating. Of course, I've played Alan Wake 2, so that's the same gist in that. But what makes this one even more unique is how they then apply that to the control scheme, having the flashlight be your L2 or your left trigger and the shooting being your right trigger, I think is like really, really cool. From a pitch perspective, but then you get into it, and the deeper the gameplay goes, it really just shows you just how shallow that gameplay loop is, and how they just do not evolve from it at all. What you play in hour 1 is pretty much what you're going to be playing in the final hours as well. There's a couple of small things that they do change, but overall, it's just the same thing again and again and again. And I think that repetition kind of ruins what the art is trying to say in it. And I have a similar critique with 2 as well, but not as much. 2 knows when to rein it in. 1 is constantly monster closet after monster closet after monster closet, just throwing mobs at you all the time. They all behave the same way. Even when the game gets a little more unique and starts throwing inanimate objects at you, they behave exactly how the dudes with axes behave. And it's just so frustrating that it's constantly just these enemy NPCs bombarding you again and again and again, and your only choice is to fight them. I tried running away. It sometimes works, but very often these enemies are faster than you and will outrun you, and Alan Wake will run out of stamina trying to get away, and then the dodge is okay. It's not great, and that's kind of how I would describe game feel in general in this game. It feels okay to play, but it does not feel great to play.
Would you say it's the dodge is better than what was that Dead Space? Like it was aping all like the stuff from Dead Space. It came out last year.
Callisto Protocol?
Callisto Protocol. Or maybe
It
last
came out 2 years ago.
Yeah, the year before.
Callisto Protocol functions very differently.
I'm talking about the dodge specifically.
Yeah, I know. Even in the dodge, it functions
okay.
very, very differently.
Gotcha.
It's not like a button dodge. It's a hold left and right on the stick, like Punch Out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That feels better, but it's 21 years older,
Right,
so I would
right.
expect it to feel better.
Fair.
That's not true. 11 years older. Anyways, regardless.
Yeah, 21, yeah, it's a little too much.
Yeah, a little too much. And this level design is not great. It's very repetitive, and the signposting specifically is awful.
I was getting lost constantly.
Constantly getting lost.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the levels aren't super big enough to where like you're going to be lost for very long, but it's constantly like you never feel like you're going the right way. And I have a huge problem with enemy encounters and encounter scenarios. It's just way too repetitive, and it is so annoying every time I get a critical dodge. That it jumps into its cinematic mode, or every time enemies spawn, it jumps into that cinematic camera mode and slows everything down. Or every time I get a final kill, it does it again. It's just grating and annoying, and it's especially annoying when enemies spawn in, and it does it because they always spawn in exactly the same. There's 2 guys in front of me. There's 1 guy behind me. Awesome. I can't wait for the next one to happen. And they're all going to charge me all at the same time. None of them are going to try and dodge bullets. None of them are going to try and like flank around me. They're just going to come straight at me every single motherfucking time.
Awesome.
You will, there are too many encounters. There are too many enemies per encounter. The game isn't difficult, but it's just this never-ending swarm of enemies rushing you to where like you're going to die. And it's not anything that you as a player are necessarily doing wrong. It's just the fact of like, okay, I just have to, I guess, change my tactic this time. And tactic I use loosely. It's more of like I'm going to start running backwards sooner, as opposed to waiting for a little bit longer in that. The game is missing any type of progression, player or character progression at all, I would say.
You don't really feel yourself getting stronger.
Restarting Alan Wake every level to having nothing again is such a mistake. Yeah. Not every level, but it does it a lot, right? Sometimes it does it in the middle of a level. Taking the flashlight away constantly is a mistake. Taking your guns away constantly is a mistake. It leaves you feeling frustrated that I was just popping off shooting flare guns, shooting shotguns or hunting rifles, or I had so many bullets in my pistol, I was using this great flashlight, and then restarting you again and again and again. It feels like the game is just restarting mechanically every single level.
It feels like a cheap way of making you feel more helpless.
Yeah, and it just doesn't work.
Which, it's just
annoying.
You kind of want that from some horror games, to like have that helpless feeling, because you like if you want to get scared, right?
No, you want it in horror games, but this game's not a horror game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this game is a action. It's an action game.
Action
thriller. Sure. Yeah, if you want to get more specific in it, but it's an action game, and it just doesn't ever feel good to play. Is your mic muted?
No.
Oh, okay. Never mind. And so yeah, I love what
Just
Alan Wake.
it's okay.
I love what Alan Wake has to say. I never want to play Alan Wake ever again. Connor, I'm going to jump to you next.
From someone who has played it again.
Yeah.
It was better a second time around. Mainly because, I will give a lot of your points credit. Because overall, this is a fine game. Mainly elevated by the narrative and the storytelling. It's, a breath of fresh air. I'm a big fan of novels. And so taking on that perspective of him narrating his own novel, in a sense, because the whole game's based around that.
Genius.
I
really like that part.
The meta commentary on what writing is genius.
And, I'm a big fan of the series Twin Peaks. The tone that it exhibits, it's not the exact same. It's not one for one, but it has enough elements for me to, like that, kind of surreal, weird quality that this world has with how people interact, with how the forces work upon the world.
Twilight Zone also, just so it's...
Yeah,
I was going to say X-Files.
That too.
I was going to say X-Files meets Twin Peaks.
Yeah, it's a good way to do it. Even more so in the next one.
Yeah.
Because you're a detective for half of it. More than half of it. But anyway, enemies really do just... They get kind of tiresome after a while.
Oh my god, there's no enemy variety. Also.
Yeah, because... I will expound more on the objects, because objects will become animated, and you have to, ideally, the game kind of makes you think that you need to shine a light at them and encounter them each and every single time, which is, I'm assuming, what you guys did.
Yeah.
The game gives you its tools to try to circumvent that, and it's very simple. It becomes a game of, positioning, because all you need to do is position yourself when you're trying to get by those, for most of the incidences where you're fighting against inanimate objects flying at your head. You have to position yourself in obstacles within the environment that are very plentiful, so you don't have to actually engage and light up all of these extra enemy types. It's a game of dodging more than it is fighting. And so that's a nice twist the game gives to break up that monotonous flow of enemy just coming at you over and over and over again. And as cool as the light sequence is, it doesn't carry itself through the whole game. As you mentioned before, Tavin, it doesn't build upon itself. It's right out the gate. Oh, this is a cool mechanic. What are they going to do with it? Nothing. Besides what you saw, in the first level. But, at least it gives you a more interesting level of enemy variety with the inanimate objects than it otherwise would have had with just those main enemies. It is weird that it takes away your guns all the time. It doesn't even. You gave it kind of, I think, too much credit by saying that they want to make you feel like you're in peril. I just think their game design didn't really account for continuing to have your stuff around.
Poor.
Yeah, they just didn't think of it all the way through and how it would feel.
It's level based. It's not overall progression based.
Yes, yeah.
I have this thing where I do. Whenever I first get my hands on a game, I'm usually a lot harsher than I am the further on in. So I think it's mostly me just trying to give it a little bit of credit. I'm trying to not be as harsh on it.
And that's the thing, because during my second playthrough, you kind of, by the end of this game, when you go into the next one and you get refamiliarized with the controls, you kind of get a better sense of flow of how you deal with these combat encounters. Ultimately, they're still coming at you with no thought to them whatsoever, but you're able to do it in a way where you can take all of them out very cleanly, and it feels satisfying when you do it. That's a nice little extra element that I think comes with skill that you gain throughout the game. But for a first-time playthrough, that doesn't really apply as much. Neither does getting lost through the levels. I didn't have that happen to me. I knew where I was at all times. But that's partly due to the fact that, once again, the game gives you tools to circumvent some of its weaker aspects, like traversing through its poorly designed levels. You have the mini-map with the golden mark that points you in the right direction.
Yeah, every time I got lost, I would look at that, but I'm still getting lost.
Yeah, but for me, all I would do is that when I didn't know where I would go, and it would lead me in the right direction, even if I had to do a little bit of finagling with the not-so-great jump, the clunky jump.
Oh, God, that's so bad.
It doesn't really use to great effect during any of its platforming sequences, though I wouldn't even call them sequences, more like platforming.
Single jumps.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Challenges.
Exactly, but you get nothing for it. I like the manuscript pages. That adds to the narrative and the writing of the game. Really, the strength is in
some of the best collectibles of all time.
It is. Great collectible.
I think I just really like his voice.
Yeah, it's great reading voice. He reads.
Tavin does not.
I like the voice actor of Alan Wake a lot.
I like the voice. I think the how can I say this? What is it? That one. I don't think the acting is good in this game, and I don't think it's the actor's fault. It feels more like a direction problem, because they will have moments of greatness, but I can visualize in the booth they are being told to just give a bunch of different takes, and then the audio engineer is picking takes at random. It feels like sometimes.
Interesting.
I explained it to Connor. It feels like the game director Sam Lake is not an English native speaker.
Sure.
So it feels like Sam Lake, the audio engineer, and the actors all speak different languages. And so they are working through translations or translators to get through everything, and it just all feels disconnected. Because
it's like when you type something in Google Translate and you do it in 5 different times.
Yeah, right. It's like if you take the line delivered on its own, it's fine. It's a well delivered line. But when you put it in context with the scene, it starts falling apart. And then you can how voice acting very often the actors never really meet each other in a lot of times. You can feel it in this game where you're you don't know what that actor did in response. It feels like none of them played off of each other in any type of way. And so I base a lot of that on direction and whoever was editing / engineering. I don't know whose job that is in that. So it just feels like everybody involved in the recording process for the actors we're not on the same page at all.
A lot of people's criticisms of Rocket Raccoon.
Yes, but turned up 30,000 times more.
Right.
But Connor, I cut you off.
No problem. Gameplay, it could have diversified itself a little bit more with more weapons. It had a cool idea with the flare gun. That's cool. But then you get the shot. You have the pistol all the time. But then you get a shotgun, and it's like, oh, you get your double barrel and your pump action, and then your hunting rifle. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and it tries to mix it up a little bit more with the throwables, but you know, flashbangs are cool.
Do you guys also just like whenever they give you the secondary weapon, the hunting rifle or one of the shotguns or whatever, do you guys just always pick up whatever they're giving you?
Yeah.
To me, it always felt like this is the weapon they
That's
wanted.
what they want you to use. Yeah.
Well, there are times where it's like you have the pump action, but here's the hunting rifle, or you have the hunting rifle, but here's the pump action, and it's like I think it's supposed to give like an illusion of choice of like which one do you prefer. But to me, it was like you designed this level and you're putting this weapon here intentionally for me to use it in this.
That was kind of my feelings on it. Is these the same weapons in 2?
Somewhat, but not the same, exact same. There's
some
more.
of them are, some of them aren't.
Okay.
You also don't lose your weapons in 2.
Gotcha.
So that helps. Anyways,
yeah. I wish it had more to, you know, even though I found traversal manageable through the levels, I wish they did more within them. You know, I think of a lot of the other horror survival games. Obviously, this doesn't really constitute one as much as some other ones out there. But, you know, you have Resident Evil 1, you have the mansion with all of this cool, like, interesting level design and use of puzzles. Silent Hill 2, you know, the old and the new, they both do interesting things with a puzzle system. You know, like, Alan Wake could have benefited from that. Instead of just doing, like, you know, raise the platform, you know, to certain levels you can get across.
Wait for the elevator.
Yeah, wait for the elevator. Yeah. And instead of just doing those moments while throwing enemies at you, they could have just, you know, spread their wings a little bit more. We're playing a video game here.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of different elements in it, especially with the kind of game that Alan Wake is.
I think part of the problem with that is that Cauldron Lake doesn't feel like a real place.
Yeah.
It does in 2, but here it doesn't feel like a real place. And I kind of, in terms of like you're living through a real nightmare type thing and playing with anti-realism, I kind of like that idea. Alan Wake 2 does it way better because they make Cauldron Lake feel like a real place, but then you go into the dark place in 2. And that's where they get to your environment doesn't make any sense, like you can't map it out right or whatever like that. So that really speaks to the criticisms of this game and what they take for that. Yeah. And then they go back and look and improve on that and so forth, which makes Remedy's a great studio. I just don't like this game.
Yeah, but even so, you know, their narrative is so great, and the gameplay, it doesn't feel bad to play. It's not an completely unsatisfying experience. It's just one where the game design doesn't take into factor. Yeah, it doesn't take into factor what you're playing physically. So, you know, there's a lot of weaknesses to this game. Narrative shines through, but a lot of it's more that I personally really like this game rather than saying it deserves like an 83 as it got on Metacritic. A bit high of a score, you know, more in like the 70 range, but yeah. Once again, a lot of that's because of the narrative, which is a good reason to play it, but don't really expect the king of gameplay.
I really want to see, like, we were talking a little bit about before we were recording, because I talked a lot about how this plays, not plays like, but this, the story of this, it makes me think of something like Mike Flanagan would make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're saying that.
And I would really love to see some kind of movie of like Alan Wake, the Alan Wake story, like maybe directed by Sam Lake, like partnered with Mike Flanagan. I think that'd be really cool.
I think that Alan Wake works because it's a video game.
Does it really? You know, you think so?
Especially the second one.
Yeah. I think turning it into a movie would take something away from the experience of.
There's a side point.
And also, again, I think video games should stop chasing movies. Like, video games should be more like live theater.
Or do cool things like Alan Wake 2 does, where there's a short film that you can watch in a theater while you're playing through a level.
Well, there was something cool in like this game where you could like stop and watch an episode of TV.
Yeah, and that's another element of it. It's that style, that like flavor the game has.
It was literally Night Springs, wasn't it, on the show? Yeah, and that's
Twilight
why
Zone ripoff.
Yeah,
yeah, and you know that adds to the universe of Alan Wake, which is why they expound upon it in a pretty good way in the second one. But unfortunately, it doesn't dive too deep enough into it for the first entry.
I just don't think I ever realized that they named the Alan Wake 2 DLC after the show that you're watching.
Yeah, inside the thing. And it's a funny thing too, because like if you watch those episodes, you can like it's a bad lip sync.
Yeah.
So like clearly those actors are not English speakers. And then you haven't gotten to it, Phil, but in the final chapter there's a moment where you go back to your apartment and you watch a TV interview between some TV host and Alan Wake. Like
is it
the writer?
Is it,
it's a live action.
Mr. Dorr or whatever? What's his name?
No, it's not with Dorr. No. Door is an element that they bring in
Two.
two, which is smart of them. It was so smart of them to do. God, 2 is meta-narratively so fucking good. I also don't think the ending to this game is very good either. I think they kind of lose track. My thing about this game...
I was gonna say, what about it specifically?
Yeah.
So, this is going to sound very abstract. I have a similar issue with this game that I have with Kingdom Hearts narratively, where Kingdom Hearts is an absurdist piece, but then they try and put a plot on it, and you can't do that. It ruins it. It ruins the whole point of the piece. And so, as soon as you start entering Disney worlds and Kingdom Hearts, it turns narratively turns to crap to me.
It does.
In my personal opinion, the opening hours of Kingdom Hearts 1 are incredible, I think, narratively, because we are giving you ideas. We're giving you these sentences that don't make any sense. These fragments of wordings that spark creativity and imagination in your brain. It's so fucking good. And then as soon as they
Darkness, hearts.
as soon as they leave the island, it's now all right, well, now let's find our friends. And now we're going to put this weird plot on this game because we need conflict in a video game type thing. And it just turns to this sucks, because now you're trying to make a narrative where there shouldn't be one. Alan Wake has a similar problem where they gamify it. And they try to make you feel like a hero at the end of the game, or they try to make you feel like there's a good ending to the end of the game. You shouldn't do that, because it also messes with the meta narrative that you're talking about, or that you're giving us through writing and through the metaphor that is. I do love that one line of oh yeah, I liked your book. A little heavy on the metaphors, because the whole game is a fucking metaphor. They are just so aware of what they are doing, and then they just kind of make this hard left turn at the last hour.
Is that in the diner?
It might be in the diner. I don't remember, but it specifically does happen when you team up with the sheriff.
Yes.
And the sheriff tells is talking about your book, and you go, "Oh, you wrote it? Oh, yeah."
It happens on the helicopter ride to the dam.
Yeah.
Before you crash.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I think that's great and so forth. Phil, I'm going to give you a chance real quick before we start talking about that narrative and stuff. What do you think about Alan Wake?
I had a good time. I don't really have a whole lot more other than from what you guys have already said. Not anything different really to say. So thanks for that. I'm just kidding. I honestly, the reason I was excited to even do this was I wanted to hear y'all's takes on it, because y'all know more about Alan Wake than me. And I was just really intrigued, especially with how y'all last year were talking about 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just got me really interested and really hyped. And that's I want to say, did I submit Alan Wake for the wheel for?
No, it was this idiot.
This guy. Okay, I couldn't remember which ones I had submitted, because I think this one was a good one. To
could have just played Alien Isolation.
That would have been horrible.
Would have been great.
I mean, who knows if I would have finished that one? Because I was scared a little bit by this game, but Tavin called me a pussy. I just hate horror.
This game's not scary at all.
It's
not even a little.
It's creepy.
Not even.
First time playthrough.
I just had my first time playthrough.
But I'm saying
there's
wrong.
1 or 2 moments where I go, that was a little creepy. That's all I do. I just go, that's a little creepy.
Anyway,
I don't go, ugh.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to add. I really dug it. I was a little initially turned off by this doesn't have a traditional aiming. It's just you're moving the flashlight, right? So it's not really what I'm used to. It took some getting used to.
To put it in more detail for people, it's almost as if you played a third-person shooter, but you never scope in.
Right.
Yeah, it's just whatever that hip fire is 100%. But you can still get pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Very accurate.
By around where chapter 5 where I'm at now, I was getting some pretty good shots off.
Yeah.
But I think overall I'm a little bit higher than Tavin is. Maybe not as high as Connor. Connor really likes it.
Yeah, but a lot of the I kind of falter on the gameplay aspects, because the gameplay's not great.
Right.
It's average overall. Just because I knew the flow of the game and combat, which made it a little bit more fun, and I got to give it credit for that, but not much credit.
That's how I feel about 2. I think 2 has very average gameplay.
If I had to describe this game in one word, or this series in one word, it's intriguing.
Yeah,
it is
for sure.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, one of the most interesting game franchises on the earth. And yeah, I don't know if I want a 3, but
We're getting a 3.
we're gonna get a 3. But I don't know if I want one. But like after playing this game, I don't think I would have wanted a 2, and 2 was pretty good.
You know, I guess a little gripe I had is I don't see how the ending is bad at all. In fact, it's not even really hopeful. It's not even a happy, idealistic ending, especially with what we know happens in 2. You know, he's not exactly in a position he wants to be in.
He's in a dark place.
He is. He is. It's not an ocean.
No,
It's
he's
not a lake. It's an ocean.
Phil, he's in the dark place.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, that's the whole part
That
of
was
2.
the joke.
Yeah.
Let's have the other
yeah.
thing, though, about that ending, I'm going to confront you, Tavin.
Yeah.
He didn't kill his wife.
Okay, so we're getting into this. All right, we're getting into this.
How she's pretty attractive. Alice
She's
Wake.
attractive. She's an attractive wife. Yeah. Alan Wake kills his wife in the beginning of the game, and his psychosis breaks, and he does go crazy or whatever. Not in the ways that like the game tries to tell you that Alan Wake is crazy, because I don't think any of that happens. But this whole game is a huge metaphor for alcoholism, the effects of fame, and domestic abuse. That's the whole point of this franchise. Is Alan Wake is a domestic abuser. Mr. Scratch is the dark side of Alan Wake that comes out
When he's drunk.
when he's drunk and beats his wife. And they dive even deeper to this in 2. Obviously, because Mr. Scratch has a total screen time of 5 seconds.
No, he's in there a lot.
Where?
Dude.
Oh, he is Alan Wake? He has 100% of the screen time, actually. No, even the Barry character it plays into this metaphor. Barry is not Alan's friend. Barry is this like greedy, selfish agent type who is pushing Alan to dive deeper into this spiral that he has. And
Because it's producing good books.
Because it's producing good books and a lot of money, right? But it's for Alan Wake as the man, he's on a spiral. He's getting worse and worse. He's diving deeper into his alcoholism.
It's that like dark part of the artist, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yes, 100%. And it's kind of weird because Alan Wake also kind of serves as like a narrative stand-in for Sam Lake. So someone check in on Sam Lake's family. But I don't think
I've heard he's actually a genuinely lovely man.
Oh no, he seems like a really joyful person. But sometimes the joyful people are the ones you got to look out for.
I will push back because the notion that he abused his wife is even disproven within the game itself during an audio recording. There's an audio recording when you see when she was first establishing connection with Dr. Hartman to get treatment for him, and she's like in a therapy section. She basically says how he's gotten drunk. Alcoholism is a definite point of that. But how he would just get angry on a fly and be moody. But specifically, he asks, "Oh, so he's physically abusive to you?" Because they were bringing up the fact that he hit a paparazzi not that long ago, and she specifically says, "No, he never does that. I wish he did that because then he would confront him with something that he can't just run away from." And Alice is a character.
I missed this part. But.
Yeah, that's it. Alice is a completely different character, especially if you go to some of the stuff in the second game. I'll bring it up for like Barry. It specifies how Barry is someone who helps her transition back into her own life through like little subtext things that you find as Sokka in the game, like little collectibles.
Side note: as soon as he mentioned, game 2. As soon as he mentioned Dr. Hartman, I immediately thought of Family Guy.
Oh my God, you're right. That's the same guy.
Is that the doctor character?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, Dr.
I would push back on that, Connor, simply because victims of domestic abuse hide their domestic abuse.
But the issue was that it was in a therapy session, and he seemed to have not always, and it was in a therapy session. It wasn't
not
like,
always, but often. I've got 2 people, one currently right now.
No, I'm completely understanding. Yes,
yeah, so it happens a lot.
Yes, kicked you.
Yeah, the whole like I gotta save my wife, putting himself in the narrative. He's spiritually keeping his wife alive because he can't come to grips with the fact that she's gone. Like that's what the whole he spends the week writing in the dark place or whatever. That's him just like frantically panicking and going, it's a story. Now I have to write it to keep her alive.
But he writes himself into the story as the protagonist with the motivation of
because
trying to save his wife.
He can't come to grips with the fact that he's the bad guy.
He did it, yeah.
But that's also a system of him trying to curb against the dark presence and create a path doing his own writing rather than being
But the
manipulated.
dark presence is him.
But it's not. It clearly sets him apart as another being that
I don't think
existed
it-
far before he was even alive.
Firstly, I don't think the game clearly does anything.
Clearly,
So
yeah.
you're taking a lot
And-
at face value.
And also, Connor.
But this is reading too much into it over things that aren't
Well,
given
Connor,
to
the
you in
entire
narrative.
fiction of the game is played into the story that Alan Wake wrote. So you have to take any type of exposition as Alan Wake is the narrator, is the narrator in that. So when he starts pulling these elements of Thomas Zane and who was Thomas Zane's wife's name?
Barbara.
Barbara, and the Barbara character, which isn't actually Barbara, is a evil evil woman.
right, it's
force, right?
the what do they call it?
These
the,
are all-
the dark presence.
Doppelganger? Yeah, it's the dark presence.
Yeah, but like she's like
They call it the
another-
dark presence in that.
Oh, okay, yeah. All of these are elements Alan Wake has inserted into his own narrative so that he can justify his real world actions.
I'll give you half points on that because it's
'Cause
once
you-
again going into it, it's kind of unclear what is his creation and what is the nature of the secondary world.
I would
You
say-
got to think if is Alan Wake a truly reliable narrator?
Oh, he's not at all.
Not entirely, no, but there's no actual indication other than him being angry that he abuses his wife. And he constantly, and it shows that she...
Connor, he's an unreliable narrator. He's literally the narrator.
Yeah, which brings into question anything, but like, there's no other anything besides him being angry that he beat his wife. You're just kind of reaching for that as like an element, even though it could be just, not being able to facilitate a proper relationship.
I
by
would
being
counter.
angry.
I would counter with that. You're buying his excuses. He is writing these excuses, these notes, these recordings, these things into the narrative. That's him writing those things.
Yeah, but once again,
And
this is
you're
like-
buying into those because you're looking for a reason for the player character to not be a bad guy.
Get woke.
Get woke, right? Yeah. But I feel like you're using the element of, like, he writes things, so who knows what's true and what's not, to just reach for a very, very, very specific instance of who Alan Wake is as a character and why exactly he's going through all of this. Like, there is an external presence other than just him writing everything into the, world.
What is that external presence?
He's only able to do that because of the lake. The lake has power, and it's an entrance to another world.
But the lake's not real.
The lake is real.
No, it's not.
It is real, yeah. The lake? It's a literal lake. It's a lake in a place.
The dark place is a metaphor for when he goes off the deep end and into his benders. It feels like someone else is taking over. That's what the whole idea of Mr. Scratch is.
But it doesn't even dive into that in a really dark way with his flashbacks. It's just like, oh, it's, she doesn't like me being out late. And when I get confronted by it, I don't deal with it in a proper way and I shout out and get angry at her.
Even in that scene, like, he's a complete abusive jackass, like in how he verbally accosts her. And she's just trying to keep it peaceful.
Yeah,
these
exactly.
are how these domestic violence situations happen. That's how they play out.
But that's not how it just, like, you don't have one with the other, You could be a person who gets angry at who your significant other and cause problems in the relationship, but then the jump to physical violence is a whole other aspect of a character that's never properly explored in this one, other than him being angry.
But that would make me think, do you think domestic abusers think they're bad people?
No, they don't think they're doing anything wrong.
They don't think they're doing anything
But there's a difference
wrong.
between acknowledging whether you're a bad or a good person and doing specific acts.
But Connor, who is crafting the narrative?
Alan Wake, influenced by the dark presence, this lake, this evil lake that has power to it.
Do you see how we're going in circles?
He's
here
just
with this?
talking in circles.
No,
Yeah.
you're just ignoring the supernatural aspect outside of
Connor,
Alan
you're
Wake
not
and solely
taking-
focusing on the meta narrative.
I think what the meta narrative is, it's you said he was reading too far into it. I feel like you're reading too far into it by like, oh, there is the supernatural presence, but it was all just a story that Alan Wake crafted.
I would argue you're not reading far enough.
That's surface level, and then it also like debates, okay, how much are you having to reach and infer things? It doesn't exactly make a hard line to be like, this is what the story's about and trying to indicate.
I'm just saying, I
But
don't
that's
think
the point of anti-realism.
Yeah, but
I
it's
just
not
don't
all
think-
just that.
the way you're saying Tavin is reaching too far. I think he's reaching just far enough.
But that's like, you
I
keep
think
bringing up
he-
anti-realism and absurdism. Some of those things definitely make sense, but you're like gauging how much those elements influence the plot based off your own knowledge of that kind of concept. Like you know what that means to its fullest extent, so you dive into it.
So I
all the
know
way.
what something means. So when a piece of art explores that, I'm using my knowledge.
Well, you're taking an element
make
of
shit up.
You're not making shit up necessarily. You're inferring things, but you're stating them as fact. And like this is what the story's about. When it's a lot more open ended than that.
I see what he's saying. He's
I
saying
think a lot of it is.
My issue is the physical abuse because it never shows definitively that's it. You can infer it, but my issue when it's like this is what it's about.
I feel like they dive way more into it in part two. Part 2, they almost explicitly say Alan Wake is an abuser.
That's when there's more.
In this one,
weight
they don't
to
say
it.
it as much. Probably because I don't think video games as a art form are in a place to where they can have those conversations. Because what type of stories are you getting in 2010? This is the
Brutal
effect.
Legend.
This is what I
Brutal
right?
Legend.
This is what The Last of Us effect is. Is it allowed video game creators to have harsher conversations or more real conversations or fully formed conversations where you didn't have to be the hero of the story. Pre-Last of Us, your player character had to be the hero of the story.
Yeah.
I think. I can't think of an example where that's not the case.
Probably anti-heroes, but
Shadow of the Colossus. But even then, that's to save the princess stand-in, right?
Yeah, that's the flip on its head.
They give you a moral reason to stand in. You cannot play as a inherently immoral character, and that's who I think Alan Wake is. He's inherently immoral, but he's not gonna tell his story that way. His story, he's the hero because we're all the heroes of our own story. Can I also say I love the meta commentary on writing through collectibles,
Yes.
through the manuscript pages. You find them out of order.
Yeah.
I think that's genius because writing, the process of writing is trusting the process, right? You gotta start writing and then keep writing, and you will eventually find what that story is about.
You could eventually find that the first thing you wrote is like the end of that story, where you're like, oh, it'll make sense later. Oh, I have this idea for here. This can take place right here.
Or what I tend to do when I'm writing, and it's so convenient that I'm playing this game while I'm in a play writing class right now. I write a play, and it's all like, it's okay, it's fine, it's whatever. And then my ending will be really powerful, or my ending will be really good. And I'll look at the rest of my story and go, oh, this story isn't what I thought it was. So I need to go back and retool all of these other scenes that
That's
I've
art,
written,
baby.
And I gotta go retool to get at the truth of what this full narrative is.
That's art.
Yeah, it's so fucking good. And so I like to take the meta commentary of storytelling and writing all the way mechanically to the collectibles is genius. They kind of lose it a little bit on the coffee thermoses, which I don't know what the point of those are.
It's
other
basically
than,
like backpacks from Spider-Man.
it's even less than that.
Yeah,
It's just like
trophies.
Yeah, right. It's just another thing to collect. There's also, I guess, video games to play in this game. I saw it in the statistics. There's like you can find a number of games, like mini games to play, and I don't know what those are.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that.
But also there's also the cans that are stacked in pyramid shapes.
Let's be honest. I was trying to fly through this fucking game. I was not trying to spend a whole lot of time.
Well, when I first started, I was like, oh, I want to find everything, and I was doing a pretty good job. Chapters 1 and 2, dude, them bitches out pretty well.
Nice.
3 and 4, not so much. 5, I got a good amount.
Yeah, I essentially tried to finish this game in several, I want to say 2 to 4 hour stints. Because it would be, I would get home from work super late. I would have already eaten, and then I came home. I was like, "Fuck!" I get home a little bit before midnight, and then I'm like, "Oh, it's 2 a.m. I got to go to bed so I can be at least awake at a decent hour, so I can get ready, get my routine done, and then go back to work again." Because I worked 8 days in a row, and now I have 3 days in a row off.
Only the timing on that was a little bit different.
Right? I just had to get married,
Yeah. Some people say that's
I
important.
had another thought.
Had to go and fall in love.
What good does
that
it do?
annoying ass thing that we do. Fuck. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about, and I've lost it.
Characters?
God, I wish this game played better.
This game would be one of the best of all time if it just had better gameplay.
That's how I feel about 2 also, where I was just like, it's so close to being amazing, and it's just not. It's
so close to a 10, but it ends up being an 8.
2, I think, is probably, it's between that 7 and 8 era, realm. This is 5-ish.
While we're talking about numbers,
let's go ahead and get right on into it. So, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we over here at TwoPennyGames in the Game Club, we play games, we review them, and then we rank them amongst the other games in the series. Excuse me. Those games are as follows so far. Number 28, Fable. Number 27, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. 26, Prey. 25, Tomb Raider. 24, Batman Arkham Asylum. 23, Uncharted 1. 22, Halo Combat Evolved. 21, Dead Cells. 20, Shadow of the Colossus. Number 19, Mario 64. Number 18, Resident Evil 4. Number 17, Portal. Number 16, Banjo-Kazooie. Number 15, Ratchet and Clank. Number 14, Pokemon Soul Silver. Number 13, Severed. 12, Resident Evil. 11, Chrono Trigger. 10, Dishonored. 9, Metal Gear Solid. 8, Shovel Knight. 2, Portal 2, 7, Portal 2, 6, Doom 2016, 5, Yakuza 0, 4, Hades, 3, Final Fantasy 7, number 2, The Last of Us, and number 1, God of War Ragnarok.
Tavin didn't say it, but I will cut him some slack because he had to read a lot there. He didn't say it was 2013's Tomb Raider. Number 25.
Oh, yeah, you're right. 2013's Tomb Raider, not Tomb Raider 1 necessarily, but that one. Gentlemen, where is the thing that I need? Is it
the people?
One? There it is, right there.
That's the one.
I'm gonna start the bidding here, gentlemen. I'm sorry to take over. This game is a great piece of art. It's a bad video game, and that is very, very conflicting for me as someone who loves really artsy shit. The narrative and what it says do buy a lot of points for me. I think the ending goes left because video games as a medium are not bold enough to commit to the stories that they want to tell.
At least at that time, for sure.
At least at that time. And mechanically, I think this game is so shallow and just fails to really dive deep into any ideas. I was thinking about it. Just another pistol would do a lot for it. How about we have enemies who are invisible and you can switch your flashlight to a UV mode to make them visible? Ideas? Something that maybe could have been explored in a sequel, but they don't. Anyway, so because of all that, I'm quite low on this game, but I'm not exactly sure how low I am because there are games that I think mechanically play way fucking better, but I don't have as much artistic respect for them. So right now I'm stuck between whether or not this goes above or below Tomb Raider 2013, either as the new number 25 or the new number 6. So I jump to you, gentlemen. Where are you guys at with this?
See, now, for me, I know Connor's easily going to be the highest on here because he's crazy and he doesn't like Arkham Asylum.
Sucks. Ass.
It doesn't suck.
For me...
It's just a little boring.
Sucks.
I'm going to put my answer for the new number 28 above Fable, below DK Tropical Fruit.
Fuck.
Oh.
Not mad at that either.
Well, for me,
because I feel like I was the highest of all three of us on Prey.
You were.
Yeah, and I think that I would rather play Prey again than play this.
Yeah, I didn't like Prey. I think Prey has better execution of gameplay mechanics than this one does. But overall as a package is pretty like it's fine. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze I think is a better game than Alan Wake, but where the list is right now, I don't want to put Alan Wake below Prey.
Well, it'll be a cold day in hell if I ever put it below Arkham Asylum. So I'm refusing to do
so
that.
Wrong.
You're just wrong.
The regret, that game sucks ass. This game,
it
if this
doesn't.
game is, can kind of be samey.
I don't
and
understand
not that
how
great.
you can fucking say
Arkham
that.
Asylum is literally just a
Spencer right
nail.
there. This game.
This game blows. But I don't want to put it over Tomb Raider. I'm going to, but I don't want to.
You're putting your personal taste over artistic intent and execution.
Artistic intent immediately goes over Arkham Asylum.
No, it doesn't.
That's what we're talking about. Because gameplay isn't exactly fun to engage with in any way, shape, or form in Arkham Asylum.
I disagree.
That game sucks.
You're so
that game
wrong.
should be like near the bottom of this list. I hate
It
that.
is.
It is near the bottom.
No.
Inexplicably, it is because of you.
No. What I mean by bottom is like bottom 3 in that range. Prey's better than that. Definitely.
No.
Yeah, it is.
No, Arkham Asylum's a better game.
I actually liked Prey, and it's not touching Arkham Asylum.
Arkham Asylum's a better game than
No, it's not. It sucks. Uncharted 1, I was going to put it above it. Honestly, Uncharted 1 doesn't really do anything interesting with its gameplay at all either. It does the cool... I like the enemies at the end, the frog people.
Yeah.
Those amp it up for me, but they're in such a small aspect of the game that I'm just finding against, enemies that are also coming at you pretty basically. Even, at least they come behind you in Alan Wake. They don't even come behind you, ever, I don't think.
They come from all angles in Uncharted. And that's my thing. Uncharted enemy AI, actually, reacts to you. They'll run away from a grenade. They'll duck into cover. They'll try and flank you a little bit. They'll come at you from different angles. There's way more enemy types in Uncharted.
There's more than 2 enemy types,
Literally.
We've got crows, by the way, guys. We're discounting the crows.
Oh, counting crows. What the
great,
What the problem, baby?
Yeah.
Let me flash this flashlight at this thing in the air for
counting
30
crows.
seconds until it fucking disappears.
Yeah.
So much fun every single time.
And you know what? I'll give you that one, Tavin. For that reason, I'll put it below Uncharted 1. It's better than Arkham Asylum.
And Uncharted also has the like, it's a fake sense of progression, but they do have a sense of progression in which about halfway through that game, they level up the weapons and you have stronger weapons suddenly,
Yeah.
Like it's a fake sense of progression, but at least there.
Something to stimulate you a little bit more.
Whereas like Alan Wake, I'm in the final level with only a flashlight. What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
Not even the upgraded flashlight, which isn't that much better.
It's better.
It's just got a longer battery.
It's good.
Sure. I mean, they do give you the lantern. The lantern's pretty great. I love the lantern. But the like little like in between upgrade, that's a piece of shit. I forgot my point. No, you were so wrong on Batman Arkham Asylum because Batman at least has intention. They are saying this is the experience we are trying to do, and they execute on that. They execute exactly on what they want. Now, I have critiques on that where I think they could go even further
And they do
that
in the sequels.
And they do in the sequels.
I imagine.
But to me, it's just like, oh, this is a great idea and a great foundation and a starting point. This is a great first game. But it is a first game. It's a first idea. They don't dive as deep as they should, and that leads the game to be a little like samey and generic and repetitive.
How bad is that Poison Ivy boss fight?
That's so bad. And when you got to run around and sneak up on the pods and stuff, that part sucks too. But I disagree. I think the stealth elements of that game are still fun to play with.
Yep.
I think instilling the fear in the bad guys as you continue to pick them off is great. That game makes you feel like Batman. And it's the game that started makes you feel like XYZ thing.
Exactly.
Right?
IGN thing.
And I think I think Arkham Asylum executes on its vision perfectly. It's just 15 years later, it doesn't hold up as well as it probably could. I hope Arkham City does.
I imagine I have no doubt that it will.
I really hope it does. And so like to me, it's just like Alan Wake is a game that doesn't understand the type of game that it is. It should not be this monster closet, enemies rushing you type game. Honestly, I would be more impressed with Alan Wake if they had 30% of the combat encounters that they have in this game.
It does have a more solid identity than Arkham Asylum, but the problem is, similar to what you guys were saying with Alan Wake,
You said that
we were all
backwards.
saying,
Are you saying Arkham Asylum has a more solid identity or Alan Wake?
has more solid identity in terms of like its gameplay.
Which
You
one
didn't
does?
answer the question.
What?
Which game?
Which game has more solid identity?
Arkham Asylum.
Okay, there we go. Because you
Yeah.
said it backwards.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but the problem is that the gameplay of Arkham Asylum, it controls like shit. It doesn't feel satisfying to fight
How?
enemies.
How does it control like
You move incredibly
shit?
clunky. The level design doesn't facilitate interesting, fun stealth mechanics or encounters. Not to
What
mention,
are the fucking gargoyles and the vents for?
Gargoyles,
Those are
vents.
lame. Those are lame. Those do nothing. It's like, I go in a vent to hide from the enemies. I'm stimulated.
That's what stealth is!
Yes. Oh, dude, I play Splinter Cell. That has way more interesting stealth than this game.
You
could ever
hide in
try to do.
lockers in Splinter Cell! What are you... And in vents!
you're
What are you
traversing-
talking
you're-
about?
But you know what you
Traversal
don't
through
have
the
in Splinter
areas-
Cell?
The
A grappling hook.
You don't have a grappling hook in Splinter Cell. Grappling hook's pretty great.
Pretty fucking cool.
Oh, I got caught. Zoop. See ya, bitches.
So it basically makes the stealth easier and less impactful.
I'm not
Easier
saying
to
it's a
get away.
difficult game.
I'm not
I'm
saying
just saying they had an intention and they executed on it way better than Alan Wake does.
No. Especially with the melee.
He was so close to agreeing.
He
wasn't.
knows he's wrong.
He
But
knows.
he's gonna dig his heels in
No.
this.
That's not what I'm doing. Because also you factor in the gameplay.
he's got his
of
nails-
Arkham
he's got his
Asylum.
nails in
Like,
the carpet,
What is it?
you know?
It's the same thing you get
It's-
encounter from the
it's-
very first encounter. You just do a count. Oh, this guy's coming
That's
to me.
not
I
true.
counter.
It's not
This
true.
other guy
That's
comes
not
to me. I do dodge.
Sometimes
not-
you can't because there's different enemies.
There's
that make
different
you
enemy
stop
types
doing
in that
stuff.
game. You can't all the time. Sometimes it's a beat 'em up brawler. Sometimes it's a stealth game. And the stealth mechanics change drastically every single time. And the brawling mechanics change drastically as you progress through the game.
It's shit change. It doesn't like it progresses in the sense it changes what you're doing exactly, but not. It doesn't like substantially improve the gameplay feel of it.
But it has more than this!
That's just more. That's like
This doesn't
newer-
have anything!
It's introducing less interesting game. Well, not less interesting, but uninteresting game mechanics, and you're acting like that's a positive because they give you more. To
How are
continue.
they less interesting? interesting? What about it is less interesting?
Because you still just end up dodging them the exact same way and pressing counter against whatever fucking attacks they're throwing at you.
You're so wrong.
Yeah.
No, the dudes with the electric batons, you
dodge.
have to fight differently.
You dodge.
Dudes with knives.
Are there dudes with shields in Asylum?
I don't know if they introduced those in the city or not.
But all of this feels like shit too. It doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel like shit. How does it feel like shit? Because you have to press circle instead of triangle? That's what's
it's
shitty to
the
you?
first game before they were able to get
Oh,
a
I'm
good
sorry,
feel.
Connor, that it's not Final Fantasy 16. I just mashed square the whole fucking time.
Yeah, I compared it to Final Fantasy 16 like 5 minutes ago.
No, I'm
Remember when
just
I did
making
that?
fun of you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you guys like it. You know what? I'll say it. Look at this, guys. Superhero nerd.
You're gonna
Flash
you're
right there.
gonna
It's
say
got
you're
nothing
gonna
to
say
do with
Yoda.
it being a
Superhero right there. Look at what I'm dealing with, guys.
I'm not even
Flash
a fucking
guy.
We're gonna point to the fucking anime read the Flash. You're a fucking anime weak nerd.
About heroes, about like American-inspired heroes.
Heroes. You'd actually like this show.
My hero?
Yeah, My Hero
Yeah.
Academia.
I don't give a fuck. It's this
It's
fucking
heroes.
weeb shit.
That's what I'm between. I'm fighting between superhero nerds and losers.
That doesn't have anything to do with it, dude.
You can't tell me you don't like My Hero Academia. Shut the fuck up.
I'm just saying the superhero angle is all you're going for.
Alan Wake gameplay is bad. Arkham Asylum gameplay is
It's
serviceable.
bad.
It's serviceable.
It's not serviceable.
Yeah, when you have to knock out dudes, but they got the little alarm collar, so now you
Yeah.
gotta get the fuck up out of there, or like, oh, this guy has guns, or this guy you gotta like take out in a different way.
But none of
like
these
that
things
at
are fun
least
to
makes
do.
you
So
What
like,
are you
or
gonna
you have the guys in the sniper towers, and if you don't take out a guy in the right way, another guy in another sniper tower can fucking rock your shit.
You gotta
Let it
actually
happen,
think
yeah.
about what's happening. This game is just drudge.
You have to
experience.
look at the entire like map in front of you of like what are all these enemies in this courtyard. There's 2 snipers on these towers. There's all these guys in the middle that I have to take out the snipers first.
I didn't say it when you brought it up. Your whole point about like positioning with the inanimate objects, I think falls completely flat because the most effective way is just to flash the fucking flashlight at them and then try and dodge at the last second. But there's no clear moment where they shoot at you because the timing is different per object. So like
Lighter objects do it faster. And heavy objects do it.
Yeah. But you as a player can't like struggle to decipher that, or to decipher that kind of timing. There's no indication of when it's going to happen. It just happens, and the dodge is so meh that like it's a struggle to do that. I found it a struggle to dodge normal enemy attacks at times because this dodge is mediocre. You know what's not? You know what game doesn't have a mediocre dodge, Phil?
Batman Arkham Asylum.
Batman Arkham Asylum.
Hey, but here's the thing, Tavin. He might not agree with us because we know he's wrong. He doesn't have to agree with us.
Because he's getting fucking low. Tomb Raider plays better than this game. You know, that's the fucking problem.
Yeah.
This game's more interesting than Tomb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where I'm stuck. That's where
true.
I can't decide.
You fight cool samurai guys in Tomb Raider.
Is it cool?
Yeah.
Is it cool though?
Is it cool?
Yeah, I would say it is.
I don't think it's cool. I think it's actually weird.
But like, I don't know. I just think I know I'm not going to convince you that to put it below Prey. But for damn sure it's going below Arkham Asylum.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I'm tired of having this fight with you every goddamn month.
It's a dumb fucking game.
Because you're
Dumb game.
so wrong.
It's not wrong
It's not
at all.
great. I'm not like it was really good for the time, and as time has gone on, it's gotten less good. But it's not a shit game. Like I just don't understand that perspective. The Scarecrow moments, come on, man.
What are you talking about? Those dumb.
Those aren't great.
Yeah. What are you
Scarecrow
talking about?
moments.
They were great for the time.
The best moment in that game
like
is
the
Killer
side
Croc.
scrolling where he's like in the middle.
Yeah, it's all right.
No.
It's fun enough, you know.
I don't like those parts. But I like where you see Batman. He's like influenced by the fear gas. I like those cutscenes.
They replay the beginning of the game again, and it's Batman. You plays the Joker. That was a dope ass moment.
Yeah.
Terrible final boss.
Bad final boss. Yeah.
Terrible final boss.
Rock is the best boss.
Better than this game's final boss though.
Not even really a boss. Shine a flashlight at
So
an
what- tornado.
what are you thinking, Tavin? Above Tomb Raider, below?
Yeah, I'll put it above Tomb Raider with the new number 25. But yeah, I could go either way with that one right there.
That is where it's going to end up because you gotta split the difference between me and Connor. So,
ladies and gentlemen, that is your new number 25. Thank you so much for watching and listening. But before we get out of here, we got to know what we are playing next month
I fucking hate.
through the next.
could pull a
month
fast
and
one.
so forth.
Not gonna. We already know who he's gonna pick. It's Tavin's month to pick.
Now, of course, normally we have a picker wheel where we let the big giant spinner wheel pick the game for us, where there's like 100 games put on the wheel and it randomly decides one for us. But we wanted a little more influence over what we were playing so we could get to some of our favorites and talk and review those. And I'm so excited that this time has finally come, because it's time for a game that actually commits to artistic intent and gameplay execution at the same fucking time. One of the greatest games of all time. So excited to play it. So excited to talk about it. So excited for these gentlemen to play it in its entirety and actually take in its ending. We are returning Metal Gear Solid. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty is your game for November. Play it along with us. We will see you at the beginning of December with our review and ranking of that game. Boy, oh boy, what a time it's going to be. I'm especially excited because these gentlemen have a pretty... I mean, Phil, you already had it, but Connor specifically will have a pretty clear, witness, we'll be able to witness a pretty clear, evolution of gameplay here, because two really goes there mechanically. It's such a much more advanced game than one was.
Fair enough. I'm really excited to play a Snake again.
Oh, dude, yeah, man.
Snake is back!
Until next
it.
time, have a great time. Let us know what you think about Alan Wake down in the comments below. And we will see y'all next month. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.